Hello, butterflies. Welcome back to the comic verse. Welcome if it's your first time here. So, I'm just going to dive right into Elektra's storyline. So it starts with Elektra reflecting on her image of who she is, who she's perceived to be through others, and how those perceptions influence her own idea of who she is. She goes through stages of her life where she's played different roles, and in the end, she says, I'm none of that because I'm always going to be someone's assassin. So she was going somewhere with this, but fell into the trap that many of us fall into, which is attaching ourselves with one label or role. We're multifaceted beings that are capable of wearing many hats at once, right? And there's absolutely no shame in exploring different parts of us, whether it's temporary or permanent. The concept is simple enough. Of course, you can be a parent and a business person and look good and that, right? But the test happens in many forms when it comes to our identity. Having different interests and aspects of yourself that don't seem like they should coexist. That's one test, because then we're told that it's not authentic. We're allowed to wear different faces and all of them be as true as the other. Obviously, I'm not talking about being two-faced and snaky for the technical people out there. What I'm saying is we're allowed to be chameleons and explore any and everything that we want to. That's our birthright coming into this world, to experience this earth and what we're capable of and our highest potential. Whether that's something like being spiritual but also being sexually liberated, or being friends with both extroverts and introverts, or yourself sometimes being introverted and other times being extroverted, or even just exploring career options, right? I went through so many career choices, and people like that, we we get made fun of because from an outside perspective, it's like, okay, are you gonna get your shit together and decide what you want to do with your life and stick to one thing, or like what's going on, right? But exploring the options that come to you is deciding what you want to do. We're made to feel like if we explore other options, that's a risk, whether that's career, love, or aspects of self. Because we put so much time and effort and emphasis into one thing that if we walk away from that for something new that won't potentially work out or lead to anything, it feels like it's not a smart move, right? But in reality, the smart move is making sure you have no regrets. We have strong attachments to people, to our identity and our jobs. That's why when we have to detach in order to explore something new, it's scary because it's unfamiliar. We often hear this phrase that we're multidimensional beings, and it sounds very simple, but another test is when we lose a title that has been attached to our identity. Shedding or losing old parts of us can sometimes feel like we're losing an entire part of us, right? Whether that's the title of a parent and you no longer have to physically care for a child anymore, or the title of the job you've been in, the title of boyfriend, wife, and even losing the title of being single. Whatever role that we become accustomed to, when we have to shift to that opposite, it can be very uncomfortable, right? And so the opposite side of that, it can be equally frightening to gain something new. When we come into another aspect of ourselves, it can feel foreign and conflicting to an older version of us or even an existing version of us. This is prominent when we heal toxic patterns and we step into new ones. It can feel very uncomfortable simply because we're familiar with the toxic energy. So, for example, shifting from unhealthy relationships to healthy ones, learning to set boundaries with people, or even just speaking your truth and being yourself. It's not enough to be conscious of these problems, you have to put it into action. And our subconscious keeps us from that. And that's why we have to be so hyper aware and put effort into changing those habits. Elektra definitely experiences guilt because she feels no matter what role I play, at the end of the day, I'm an assassin. So she's become attached to that role and neglects all others because of it. This is that battle that says two opposing aspects can't coexist, but these are all instilled by who? Society, right? So to give you guys examples on a smaller scale, it's like mothers who want to maintain their individuality but feel guilty for it because society says mothers have to look and act this way. Sexuality is a very important one because shame is often associated with that, especially in religion. So some people feel like I can't be both a being of God and sexually liberated. And that doesn't mean being promiscuous, but whatever standing in your skin comfortably means to you. Or maybe you've had no problems being sexual in the past and now you want to explore being celibate, and even that can feel shameful. There's definitely a whole lot of preaching about doing better, but when people try to do that for themselves, they get made fun of in that process. We've all grown from mindless mistakes, so it's only fair to keep that in mind when we approach others, right? Even if you've been in the wrong and made the wrong moves, cheating for example, and I know they say once a cheater, always a cheater, and there is a level of truth to that to a lot of people, with a lot of people I mean, but there are people who genuinely see what they've done and they want to do better, and I've seen that be a struggle, especially if you're connected to your heart space and tuned in with your emotions. Of course, you're going to feel guilty when you take accountability for what it is that you've done. And that goes for any wrongdoing. But to sum up all these examples, I want to remind you guys that whether you've actually messed up or it's society that's making you feel like you've messed up, have compassion for yourself. Once we learn our lesson and decide to show that in our actions, emphasis on showing it in our actions, there is no reason to continually carry that guilt, okay? Guilt is so important because it teaches us when to check ourselves and have compassion for others. But there can be an imbalance where you're just straight up shaming yourself in a cycle. Elektra has a choice of stepping away from being an assassin, and it's clear that her heart is always in the right place, but she constantly feels imprisoned by her choices and who she has always been. When it comes to feeling fragmented, one paradox that we have to accept is that we're always already whole, even though there's always growth available to us. That's why in the Wolverine analysis, I said that we're not actually fragmented, because fragment says a part of you is broken and separated, which makes you feel like you lost a part of yourself. But no matter how low and disconnected we feel, we are always whole, okay? The parts that are no longer with us and don't need to be become fractals, and that part is still existing in that moment in time, in that expression of you. So the parts of us that we feel are broken and we want it to be healed and revived, that's always possible. The heart is intelligent on its own, it has its own brain. The heart will always heal, it'll always keep beating, and it will always crave love. It's the battle in our minds that keep us from reconnecting from our past experiences through our traumas, which is why Elektra goes through her own version of the underworld. And as I mentioned in Wolverine, the underworld is symbolic of our own demons and fears. It also speaks to our battle with duality. She couldn't bear wearing the title of hero because she couldn't spare the villains, which automatically makes her feel less than. Because to your subconscious, that's like saying you're not worth the title of a good person. You know, and we've all done good and we've all done bad things at some point in our lives, but the title that you want to claim in the present moment is completely up to you based off of your actions, okay? That's just the experience of life. Sometimes we cross over to the other polarity, but that doesn't diminish the good in us. That doesn't mean we can't come back. I really can't stand it when people are like, oh, so you can do all the fuck shit in the world and just apologize and ask for forgiveness and all is well. No, 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 no. We're not talking about religious nonsense here, okay? Where you confess your sins and all is well in the world. This side is all about growth, and with growth comes accountability, okay? We balance the scales by genuinely learning the lessons. You can fool your pastor, you can fool Twitter, you can fool your damn self, but you will never fool your spirit. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you will be because spirit has your best interest. Why? Because spirit is you. So she says that she's no longer a dancer, an artist, a hero, a daughter, or a lover, which is all false. Just because something is dormant or inactive, or even if you've never experienced it before, it doesn't mean that it's no longer a part of you or that it's not in you. You can choose to tap into that essence at any time. You can be multiple things at once, and if it conflicts with your past actions, that's okay. Don't ever feel guilty for growing because most people don't even get that far where they can be aware and take accountability in order to grow their mindset. So Elektra seems to be going through heartbreak, so naturally her fight, flight, or freeze mode is activated and she goes in for a new job just to escape the city and the memories in it. I don't know about you guys, but I have definitely been guilty of booking spontaneous flights after major mishaps in my life. You know, sometimes it's needed to get away, to relax, to clear your mind, or even if it's just a whole distraction. But at the end of the day, we do have to come back to reality, right? The distractions and the high of life experiences can only do so much until the emotions that we don't want to deal with want to be addressed. And if you don't want to address them, then that's when they become a part of your underworld energy. They become your shadow, trying to be expressed through your subconscious so that you finally give that emotion the recognition and love that it's looking for, right? I know it sounds so cheesy, you guys, but sometimes that's literally all it takes. We are beings of love, living to interact and experience even more love with others. It feels difficult and overwhelming to just let these emotions be and flow because it's painful, right? But allowing it to just happen also helps your body to process and release the pain. And so because Elektra chooses to avoid her emotions, now she's about to go into an entire journey facing these monsters which are symbolic of her underworld. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you, butterflies, so much for spending some time with me today. Remember that you are a goddess, a god of 1,000 faces, and whatever energy or aspect that you dream of integrating is possible because there's nothing stronger, nothing more powerful than your willpower, okay? Stay flying free, and I'll see you butterflies next time. Bye.